Right. Today, I'm going to discuss about a case study which is relating to the capital markets domain. This is a case study series which I'm making especially for the people who are applying for any job opportunities, especially as a business analyst or as a developer or someone, because there are multiple roles in the field of IT development, either in the services side or in the product development. So we require some business analyst who will be gathering the requirements and providing solutions for any customer as well as the market needs. At the same time, we require technical team, like development team, all that. So who will be developing solutions by implementing the business logic, etc., all that. At the same time, we require even project management team as well, who will be evaluating the risk and budgeting, right? So manpower planning, everything will be done by the project management team. Next, testing team, architect team, right? So there are different roles will be there in the field of application development in the field of IT. Either it's in the services side or a product side, because the major different services means we are developing an application especially for a particular customer. But whereas when it comes to the product itself is concerned based on the market industry demands and expectations and all. So we are developing the product. That's what something which normally we do. So these are the two different services in the field of IT we have. So most of the people who are applying for job opportunities and to have some live exposure in the field of projects, irrespective of the technology as well as the domain which they are applying for based on that. So to have some project exposure in this regard, I'm just making this video, especially from the context of the case study, which I have taken. And this case study, whatever I have taken is completely relating to the bond market, right? So bond market and broker centric based, which is for the capital marketing domain. Now, when it comes to the case study, when we are trying to understand, because most of the people faces a failure or a difficulty, I don't say failure, it's a difficulty uh, to explore themselves as well as to explain themselves, like what was their experience, right? So which project they did so far. So how to explain the project, right? So how to, what responsibilities they have made so far, right? So those sort of difficulties most of the people faces, especially for the business analyst, people aspirants or maybe any other people and all. In this regard, one should understand about how we have to present a particular business situation or a product and how do we explain. That sort of understanding and that sort of expertise or an exposure is required for an individual. So for that reason, for that convenience and all, I have created this case study in such a way which will be categorized into different parts. The first, we need to understand the client situation. And do remember the one which I'm explaining you is a product based. It's a product. It's not services. Because again, in the beginning, I said, and repeating the same. So in the field of IT services are categorized into two different parts. One is service based, project based, and second is a product based. Service based means for a particular customer, we are developing a solution. That is what something which we call it as service based means for a particular customer based on the business situation or the problem. So what solution are we going to provide is the one category. But the one which we are discussing now, it's a product because Qlint is a product based company by itself. So they have experience in the field of banking, financial services, capital markets, healthcare, all that. In this regard, so they have identified some business situation because most of the service providers nowadays in context to the applications were cloud-based, you know that. So based on the market scenario, whoever the cloud service providers, either leading cloud service providers or mid-level cloud service providers, especially in context to the services they are providing from the software perspective, because cloud services will be categorized into three different parts. So one is infrastructure as a service, second platform as a service, and the third one about software as a service. Infrastructure as a service means we are building an infrastructure for a particular project, right? So by creating some firewalls, networking, etc., right? So all this is all something comes under the infrastructure part. Platform means we require and we need to create, and we create a platform. Cloud service providers will create a platform so that on that platform, application development will be taken place. The third one is about software as a service. Software as a service means to develop any application or a product, you require different softwares. So software services is one of the cloud services which normally service providers are providing nowadays, because due to the cloud services, the advantage is that infrastructure cost will be very less. Infrastructure, you don't see much cost in context with infrastructure is concerned. It was very less in percentage, I can say. So whereas on-premise application require more infrastructure cost to be invested in, even to maintain. But whereas for the cloud services, pay per use, whatever you are using the service, you are paying only for that, right? So generally the business situation, as in when Qlient has identified in the market from the cloud service providers who are majorly providing software as a services for the companies, wherein by providing services for the benefit of trading electronic bonds, especially with the primary users and all, as well as the members of the banks who are involving in the trading. Because banks, financial institutions provide multiple services. Even they provide loans to the customers, right? So managing their accounts, right? Service accounts, savings accounts, current accounts, all that. At the same time, even banks will also have a services of portfolio, stock trading, stock broking, right? So this is all something, even capital market related services will also be managed by the banks as an external entity I'm talking about, right? So for trading electronic bonds with primary users as the members of the banks involving in the trading. Normally, these traders or the brokers will be identified as a scope of the project, whatever that we are going to develop, scope of the project and all. Normally, these traders usually are able to view all the, either it can be brokers or the traders or whoever they are, right? So normally these people required to view the list of applications, both offline and online, right? So because that facility normally will be there. That was the business situation in context to the services which they are offering for their customers, right? So traders and users are able to view all the online and offline users who are listed on the application, either from the traders or brokers point of view. In regard to this business situation, there is a product which was developed. This is what something which called as a product or a project overview, right? So for your simple understanding, I have mentioned as a project, it's a product overview, I can say, right? So product overview, where this is a kind of software we are providing to the, especially for the benefit of the brokers, broker users and all, wherein they need to have some bond analysis screen where users can show the data according to the transactional activities on the day-to-day basis. Because bond market, stock market, everything is based on the day-to-day transactions, wherein that has to be maintained. So there must be some bond analysis screen which is required for brokers to use it to identify the transaction activities and all. So because normally whatever the kind of buying, selling and holding, all these things are based on the selecting of the bonds by the traders and as well as the brokers, especially when they are going to do the trading part. So from this product, especially from the product of what is that we are developing and all. So the major advantages we can see, like the tool traders and brokers can hit and lift the bonds directly on the application itself, based on the kind of transaction activity which is performed by the users and all. There are different graphs which will be updated within the consolidated details, whatever is required. At the same time, whatever the software facilities which all the users have to apply to get the analytical data. At the same time, whatever the clients wants to integrate any kind of third-party API to fetch all the training news and feeds and as well as pool data to analyze the bonds is also possible because of this product. And a major intention of intended to develop this product is basically for the web users as well as for admin team, traders team, brokers who will be using this application or a product in the real world. Now, the major challenge. So what is the major challenge in industry is facing? Because when we are going to develop any of the product, it's always important for us to understand the gap, market gap, or the challenge, because there must be some gap which you need to identify if you are developing a product, right? So because when we go to the customer and we try to sell the product, the first thing which customer will ask us is that, why should I buy this? So in what way this is beneficial to me from the company or organizational perspective, right? So first of all, we need to understand the major challenges from the industry perspective. So what could be the major challenges from the industry perspective? So this is the observation. The first one, it requires the monitoring of functionalities, right? So we need to have a knowledge over the monitoring of functionality, how this has to be monitored. The functionalities of monitoring is one of the major challenge which any organization faces. At the same time, they are facing difficulty in managing the transaction execution in between markets and stop orders and all that. At the same time, due to that, there are chances of the trading loss because of the failures happens in the platform. Because on-premise applications, this is where you need to understand the difference between cloud application to on-premise, because on-premise applications infrastructure will be managed in the particular locality or a particular area. Due to the chances of the infrastructure which is not managed properly, there are chances wherein platform may get failed. But whereas if it's a cloud services, cloud service providers will be taking care of everything. So on-premise applications, I don't say this is a complete failure, but to an extent possible, I can consider it as a threat. So why are we moving from on-premise to cloud? Is this because of this reason? So this is majorly for mechanical platform failures and all, so that needs for a specific internet connection, all that, so that you can access the application from the cloud and you can manage, so that we don't see any kind of platform failures and all everything, and there won't be any kind of trading loss further. So this is also one of the challenge. Next, whatever that customers are using previously, using some automated trading, which requires some traders to choose and adjust and manage the trading strategy, what they are used for. At the same time, the amount of data which needs to be mapped and reconciled to the reference uh, and then processed to the real-time orders to automate the living trading workflow. So all these things are the challenges from the industry perspective based on the observation had made. Now, by considering the business situation, if you can go back to the point, as in when I have explained you about the kind of business situation. So wherein by understanding the business challenges and all. So of course, there is a project view I have given you, a product view, which is a high level, of course. Now, what solution are we going to develop? This was the point. Now, this is where mostly the role of a business analyst come into picture, because business analysts are the people, because in the field of IT, there are multiple roles I told you, right? So beginning to start with business analyst, of course, there will be a pre-sales team, etc. I'm not getting into that, but generally business analyst team who is trying to understand about uh, understanding the market requirements. If it's a product, market requirements. If it's a project, if we are particularly focusing on the customer. But as it is a product, we are focusing on the market requirements and all. Business analyst team have to come up with some business solution. So what are the solution they need to come up with? They'll be coming up with some business solution. And this business solution will be translated as a technical solution as part of implementing by the technical team. So business analyst team will try to provide the business solution first. So once the business solution was identified, how this can be implemented, what technology to be used, and what must be the architecture, these will come later. So solution is what something which normally being a business analyst, one should understand, because this is something one should understand, right? It's not only business solution, but technical solution should also be required. But initially, to start with, understanding the business solution and what solution are we going to provide is important. In this regard, there is a solution was identified where we are providing some unprecedented access to the properties with precise, updated, and real-time data, wherein deals with directly and immediately through the application. This is one solution we are giving. At the same time, whatever the data, which is a property, whatever the data are we going to maintain and all everything can be saved through this application. This is also one of the solution we are providing. At the same time, providing an automatic rent collection through a tenant portal is also one of the prominent and important element which we have to be focused more on. At the same time, tracking the agent performances, right? So site visiting bookings, right? These are all the different solutions we are going to provide. So solution being a business analyst, one has to identify the solution. That is where something which they have to be done with prior. And whatever the solution they have identified and all, if they want to implement, they require some features. What kind of features? Data security, managing the data is one of the feature. Maintenance tracking, if you want to maintain the transactions and all, it is required. Even data has to be tracked. At the same time, we need to have a feature for organizing and managing the listings, property management, tenant screening. Even if you want to manage the documents and all, document management is required. Next, followed by this, what are the notifications and alerts in regular intervals we want to receive. At the same time, to streamline the communications. To have some visualization and all, we required some dashboards and analytics. Even payment management for the transactions, it is required. At the same time, we required a feature for user roles and in rights, because whatever the user roles do we have and all. So user roles and rights are required here. At the same time, insightful property owner reporting. This is also required here. Next, maintenance of request follow-up services, etc. All that. So these are all something which are considered and comes as a features. When it comes to the features of a product, what is that are we going to develop in context to the bond market and broker facilitation and all. So these are all the features and services which are we going to provide in this product. So next, once we have identified the solution and features and all that, what kind of technology are we going to use and what kind of stakeholders do we have? This is what something which normally we have to identify. So this is how generally you need to understand when you are trying to develop a project or when you are claiming yourself that I'm involving in the project, right? If this is the perception you want to explain. So explanation of the project as well as the live experience or an exposure one should be having varies from the kind of role you are playing. For example, if you are managing a role as a project manager, the responsibilities will be as separate because you don't get into the features, all that. So your structure is different, right? If you are applying as a project manager or a product manager, right? So our roles and responsibilities will be as separate for the same product. If you are a business analyst, then whatever the responsibilities will you be rendering will be different. At the same time, if you are a developer, your responsibilities by implementing a technical solution and all, how I have done that. If you are a tester, how? So if I'm an architect, right? So how I have designed an architecture for this particular project, what kind of solution and how the solution was designed by me. So this is how generally depends on the kind of role we are playing, whatever the responsibilities we rendered for a particular product or a project, and how this can be explained varies from person to person. But end of the day, We need to understand the business situation, either what kind of role are we playing in. We need to understand the business situation. Either you may be a functional person or a technical person. You need to understand the business situation. You need to understand the problem which customers or the market is facing, what kind of solution, what kind of features are we going to develop, which technology is it something required for us to develop this, to what extent this is feasible. All these things has to be decided in this regard. So this is all about this video. So, and this is video is useful certainly for people who are applying for job opportunities, especially in the role of business analyst, especially in the capital market domain. That is point number one. Point number two, of course, this case study, these kind of case studies, not only this, of course, multiple case studies were already made earlier as a videos by me, and I posted in my channel, and a couple of videos I may be posting in future as well, right? So even these kind of understanding over the project is required not only for BA, even for the people who are applying as a product managers or product managers is required. At the same time, even for people who are going towards developer role, right? So for them also it is required, even for testing team, even people are applying for an as an architect roles and all. So for everyone, understanding over the scenario, understanding about the situation and how this can be explained, this is all something required. So in this regard, I made this video. So this you can relate for any of the role, but how you have implemented and what responsibilities and all, the detailed understanding is required. So that kind of service and as well as that kind of training and coaching I'm providing in either for a business analyst role or for a project manager role or for any other roles, technical roles and all everything. So the project exposure, I say, I don't say experience, but project exposure is important, right? So that it is confident for you to address the situation. You'll be confident uh, while you are attending an interview or when you are working on the job, right? So you will be feel confident if you have some project exposure. That sort of service is one of the service which I am providing from my end for the people who are applying for job opportunities as a BA in the capital market domain or any other domains as a project manager or maybe for any other roles and all. So if you require any kind of services of that sort, please reach out to the contact details which was posted in below to this video. Thank you.